I got my boy Mikesell on. He requested to be here. And so he wanted to talk about some things that are happening in his game night. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to bring you in and unmute you. Mikesell, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
Guys?
How you doing?
It's good to see you.
Yeah, man.
Doing
You
good.
too.
I'm trying to figure this out because I can't hear you
Yes, an
through
echo.
the Video Ninja, and I can hear you through Twitch.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
trying
they say
to
that you have an
figure out how to
echo.
change this.
I fixed the echo.
What would you suggest?
You can't hear me at all?
Well, if I mute it on the Twitch, on the sign, I can't hear you.
Interesting.
On like through Video Ninja.
Yeah. Hopefully, let me see. Am I muted? Oh, I think I am muted. Usually we do this a different way. Audio settings. Am I muted? I don't see me muted. Oh, how about now? How about now? Check, 1, 2.
Okay. I think I
Yeah,
actually know.
Easy. It's a game for babies. Yeah, no big
Perfect.
deal.
Perfect.
Hey man, so I was just telling everybody that you like requested to come on and hang out. And you wanted to talk about your board game night.
Yeah, I'm sorry if my thing's a little shoddy. Of the
Yeah. I mean you're on a potato, it's fine. Yeah.
All right.
No worries.
This is church world right here. I apologize.
No, you're good.
But yeah, so we actually had a guys retreat this last weekend, and I took this over a couple years ago, and it's called Refuel. And so we have about 180 guys from across the state of North Carolina. That makes it sound cooler than it actually is, but just all these guys show up, and when I started it over, it was very like outdoorsy guys things, right? Like hunting and military and all like mud runs and stuff like that, which is fun. Like it's super
dude
cool.
stuff. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I'm less athletic, more nerdy, and so and I've really had a heart of like, we shouldn't define what a man is. Like a man's not about what you do, right? Like
Sure.
a man is following Jesus, is God following the commands God has for you. So I wanted us to build a place where every kid felt like they belonged. So this last year, we were trying to figure out, all right, we had more kids signed up than we've ever had. We needed a place for them. And so I asked one of my youth pastor friends, I was like, hey, do you know how to play chess? Because I was like, I can line a bunch of chess boards, because I don't want everything to be like super athletic. So I was like, what if we do a bunch of chess and see what happens? And he's like, no, but I can run a D&D campaign. I was like,
Okay.
done.
Yeah.
Done and done. So we instead called it an RPG adventure, because I'm in a little older school district.
Yep.
And so I was like, I don't want to just, so we called it RPG adventure. And man, when I stood on stage Friday night and said, hey guys, tomorrow or tonight, sign up. We're having these different clinics. One is an RPG adventure. Like you can audibly hear the difference because kids got excited. Like they got so excited. And he could only do 10. And I'm like, we're going to have more than 10 sign up. And so another leader was like, hey, I can do that. I've been a dungeon master for 10 years. And I was like, if we make a copy, will you just run the same campaign to like for more kids? He's like, absolutely. So he jumped in last minute. We ended up running, I think 14, 15 guys through a campaign. They ended up going probably 4 hours throughout the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And especially one group was awesome. Like we had a football player, 3 kids that are probably on the autism spectrum, a couple other shy kids, different races, like all of these 10 kids that no way would have they hung out in any other place. But that, like,
dude, that's gnarly.
And one of my kids that's a little more shy came over and said, Chris, like I had the bow shot that exploded the ogre from the inside out, and but like and they would play at different spots, and kids were coming around them and watching the campaign. And when so we were in where our cafeteria is, and we're about ready to watch the Duke North Carolina game because I'm in North Carolina, so it's a big deal.
Natch, yeah.
And so kids are ready for that, and in the corner they're finishing up their campaign, and when they won, they screamed like they won the national championship. Like they were so excited. And the volunteer came to me. He's like, hey, do you want to do this again? He's like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I have 10 years worth of stuff. Like, we're going to do it. I have maps. I have minis. I have dice for days. He's like, I have all of it. All of it. And so we're trying to figure out, can we incorporate it with our camp this summer?
Yeah.
It'll definitely be something we do at Refuel in the future. Like, it was the first time that, like, I think it's one of the biggest wins that we've had.
Yeah.
I've been in youth ministry 12 years. You've been in the game, like, you know.
Dude.
And it's the best, one of the best wins I've ever had in my time in youth ministry.
It's difficult because kids are the living worst, especially in youth ministry. Like, and I can say these things because I'm not a youth pastor anymore. But like, it's one of those deals where you do the coolest thing. I mean, the coolest thing that has ever happened in the history of youth ministry, in those kids' lives. And they're like, it's whatever. Y'all think about it. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, no, dude, you want it? Like, we're going to have blow up games. It's going to be great. You're going to get to pie me in the face. Like, we're going to have a dunking booth. You put on a carnival for the kids and they're like, it's whatever. Like, they're just too cool for school.
Yep.
And I think it's because we are so try hard, right? Like we're trying to get the kids to think Jesus is cool, right? And so we go in these weird whack job directions when really the secret sauce is just to hit them where they are. Like, what do they like? Like, hey man, you want to play, you'll pick up basketball? Let's go shoot hoops. And then you got them. Like, they're like, oh man, you like the thing that I like. And again, D&D, right? Like these TTRPGs. I've been saying it for years, dude. Like, if youth ministries will lean into this instead of boycotting it, instead of saying how evil and terrible it is, and just understand it a little bit, like, you'll be able to see that, hey, you know, the kid that was like, I shot the thing that blew up the ogre, like that's huge. Yeah. Like that's a I had a grand slam home run in my championship game. Like, it's that kind of a moment that they will talk about with their friends and other people that care about that moment as well. They'll even tell people that don't care about it, right? Like, you should have been there. I did this thing and it was so great. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that is just, it's fantastic. And I want to, like, how did you find the right people to do that?
Faith. Like, it was a youth pastor that was just like, and this dude, a 6'5", huge dude. And he's just like, hey, I've been doing this about a year. I can run a D&D campaign. And I know him and I trust him. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And then the other volunteer, and it was actually the volunteers group, the guy who wasn't even planning it. He's the one that we lucked into. We heard him talk about it, or he heard us announce it. And he came to me, he's like, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years. If you need another one, I can do it. And I watched him work, and he made it, man. That was the group that got so excited. He went around his way to find times in different, and we also had a guy a kid in a wheelchair that was part of this group too. Like, it was the one thing that everyone could do, regardless of what their background was. And so it was a God thing. Like, it sounds a little cliche, but it was like, it was the right people, the Paul pastor, right? We do all the things for all people, so we may win some. Like, it was that. This guy you wouldn't have expected to be a dungeon master showed up, was willing to serve, and changed 10 kids' lives. And the other group, we've been trying for years to incorporate Hispanic churches into our all white, basically, district. And in the other group had about 7 people from that Hispanic church all in it.
Really?
And then later we had a Super Smash Brothers tournament with 27 kids or something stupid like that. And it was the same thing. I was playing soccer with some of these kids from the Hispanic church, and they're looking like, hey guys, it's 3:25. Hey guys, it's 3:27. Super Smash Brothers at 3:30. Like, let's go. Yeah. Like, we're done with this. We're going to go play Super Smash Brothers. And my wife was down there in the room where the tournament was happening. And she's like, Chris, it was so loud. She's like, even the people just watching were into it.
Oh, like, I believe that wholeheartedly.
So like, we went and we had, I don't know if you've ever seen the Extreme Tag on ESPN or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we had that
I
Friday
haven't watched
night
it on ESPN. I've seen the ads on Facebook. That's where they try and get me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now you'll get them all the time. We just talked about it. So you're welcome.
Thanks, robots.
We had that Friday night and some kids were watching it. And then we had a Super Smash Brothers tournament and a bunch of kids watching it. So it was like, that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted a thing where it's like, dude, no matter where you're at, we have a place for you and God has a place for you and God cares about your interests and stuff like that. And so we're engaging a group that so many people are neglecting.
Oh yeah.
And I just think there's something we would not have brought that out of kids in any other way than tabletop games.
How else would you have done it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
they're not going to sit around and share about their feelings or things like that. Like bonfires are cool and we do a lot of those too, but for those 10 kids, like they have a connection now. Like they have a place where they can youth ministry is all shared experiences, right? That's what I tell our leaders. Like we do all of the camps, we do all the dumb stuff, the pies in the face. I'm hosting a Super Bowl party this weekend. Like we do all these things. They're the worst.
God bless you.
But I very rarely do lock-ins because I don't hate my life. But
thank you. Preach on that.
Yes. If you talk about hell on earth, it is lock-ins. Like they are, because kids do, I'm passionate about this. Kids do not want to be up all night. They want to be up until 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look like demons.
Absolutely.
They are
and then you're like, oh, hey, your parents are coming to get you at 7. And so they have like 3.5 hours of sleep or whatever it is that they actually got. They're all hopped up on Mountain Dew. And then you send them terribly home to their parents and they have to deal with them for the rest of the day.
And then my kids don't care that I was up all night. My wife doesn't care that I was up all night. Like we go in and we got to do things. Like, we got stuff to do and my body does not recover like it used to do.
Yeah, Daddy's home. Dude, I'm a big fan of scheduled time frame game nights.
Yes. And so we did do a lock-in this last year, but we scheduled it out like it was a traveling one, and it was much more manageable than just like staying in your one place the whole time. But we do all those things so we can earn the right. I say we do all those things so we can earn the right to be the first call when a kid is in his worst situation.
Yep.
That's what we do. And so for those kids, they have adults now that they could turn to because they have a 4-hour shared experience that they don't have with anybody else.
Absolutely. And I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier with Rosie, like that's the thing. Like the relationship is the crux. And you hit the nail on the head. That was we got a lot of, phrases and bumper stickers that we use. And one of them is you got to earn that right. You have to earn the right. Anybody in the world is not, we're not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think like he's on a tier of people that just like when he says something, some people are just like, yes, Mr. The Rock, anything that you say, sir, I will do that. You got a new energy drink? It's my favorite energy drink. I've never had it, but I love it. That kind of stuff. Us normies, we have to earn that right.
He earned that right.
He did.
But
but not with every person.
That's true. That's true.
It's I don't know. It's one of those things, and I actually sometimes fear that, in some of the positions that we find ourselves in, whether we're like pastors or leaders of organizations or whatever, that we kind of skip the line and go straight to that point. And I'm constantly telling people, hey, look, please don't take what I say as gospel. Like, go and check it. See if it's something that does or does not work in your situation. I'm very specific about saying things like, this is what works in nerd culture. This is what works in our situation. These are principles that you might be able to use in any given space. So yeah, I got to be careful about that one too. But you do have to earn that right, especially with kids. Man, those kids are like cats, man. They're just like fickle. Sometimes they will just be lovey-dovey, and then you do one thing and they hate you. And so it's like,
Yeah, dude, you can get me going on that. And that the hardest thing with kids too is they're like, hey, Chris, you should plan this event. It's like, all right, you're going to come? Absolutely. And then you do the event. Like, hey, where you at? Oh, I got invited to this birthday party.
Yeah.
Or stuff. Yep. Or yeah. And they remember all the times you show up, but the one time you don't. and
Yeah.
you're the worst person ever. But
Oh, dude.
that's why we get paid the big bucks, Bubba.
Yeah. I said the medium bucks, right?
Yes.
Extra medium. That
Extra
was
medium.
always a thing for me, dude. It was like, hey, oh, you got a birthday party. Did you have that on the calendar? Oh no, he asked me yesterday.
Yeah.
I've been asking you for 3 weeks to put a deposit down on this trip.
Yep.
Like I told you I would pay for it. Like I'm trying to get you there, my guy.
And here's the spoiler. Like, parents are the worst part of this now too. Like, gosh, I shouldn't say that. I love parents. We have really good parents in our ministry. But
hey, man, I'm a parent, and sometimes I know I'm the worst part of it.
Yes, it's hard. I had somebody say if youth ministry is just about the kids, it'd be the best job in the world. And so it's all of it. It's all of it. The culture with all the options of sports and activities on the weekends and all those things. Like, it's just it's difficult. But
dude, I got to the point, and I helped to try and train youth leaders and ministry leaders in general, that it's like, don't compete. It ain't worth it. It is not worth it to compete. It's not worth it to shame like congregants, like people that come to your church, or students. Oh, if you really loved Jesus, you would come here instead of going to baseball practice. It's like, yeah, I don't know about that, man. Like, I think that they can love Jesus pretty well on the field. Am I doing the best with my time with them? I want people not to be in my presence and to want to learn things around me and hang out with me because of obligation. I want them to truly enjoy the time that they have, and they may not be able to, like, their dad may not let them miss baseball practice in order to come to church on a Wednesday night.
Yep.
And so you just gotta kind of deal with the hand you're dealt, my guy.
Yeah. It's easy to want to value our things over other things. But when you do that, you can definitely cause more enemies than allies in that. So and that's not helpful.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons I got fired from my last youth ministry job. And this is I love telling this story. It's one of the deals, like, I have to speculate because I still don't know why I was fired. But it's one of those deals where it's like I'm willing to play the game and ask the questions. There were some kids that wanted to go to the rodeo, and we lived in West Texas, right? And so, like, rodeo was like it was the thing. And I told them, I was like, we're not going to the rodeo. Like, it's a Wednesday night. I've got 2 nights a week with you monsters. Like, this is my job. I get paid. I don't get paid to take you to the rodeo. I get paid to help you in your journey on becoming a disciple of Jesus Christ. And so I was like, we're gonna hang out here. And so we didn't go to the rodeo. And I just said, I'm not taking you to the rodeo. I didn't say you couldn't go to the rodeo. I said, I'm not taking you to the rodeo. Mm-hmm. And man, those mamas got mad. Woo, boy. They started calling for my head, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the primary reasons that people were not happy with my performance. And so, like, I was young and dumb. Nobody was pouring into me. Nobody told me, hey, Bubba, this ain't the time not to go to the rodeo. Just go to the daggum rodeo, bro. There'll be other weeks. I fought the battles, and I got wounded on hills, and I died on one. And so,
that's the key right there. When you don't have someone pouring into you to kind of teach it. Like, sometimes it's so dumb. Like, I'm 22 years old, and I sit down at this first ministry job, and they're like, hey, here's a list of kids we want you to call to go to camp. You leave for camp in 3 weeks.
Yep.
Good luck. It's like,
been there.
Okay. Sweet. Like, let's do this thing. Awesome. I'm 4 years older than some of these kids.
Yes.
We could have been in high school together.
Yes.
It's like, awesome. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Talk about power struggles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kids are the worst, man. And so here's a more difficult thing. Well, for me, more difficult is that because I got into ministry so young, like I think I was 20 when I got into ministry. And so I didn't know a life basically outside of my youth group that, at that time in my life. And so my wife and I, for the longest time, it was like boiling a frog as far as like aging was going. We didn't realize that we were getting older because we were just kind of always around this younger group of people. And so when we were around like adults, you know, like real adults, it was like super awkward sometimes.
I feel so out of place all the time.
And I'm like, but I'm an adult too. And I think what happened is it perpetuated this narrative that because I only hung around with kids, that I was a kid, like to them. I remember when I turned 30, I was like, oh, this is it. Like people are now they're gonna know that I'm an adult because I'm 30. They didn't care. They did not care because, again, I had surrounded myself with students for a very long time. And then I went into this nerd culture ministry thing that didn't really have a name or a purpose in other people's eyes. It didn't really exist. And it was for children. And so, like, you know, it was just one of those things that people didn't get. And so, like, it wasn't until I ventured out and was like, no, I'm actually going to leave my job at the church to go and pursue this ministry full time, that people started to really take notice of what I was doing and like give it credence. And I don't do things just to gain the approval of people. Like that's not what I'm doing. But I looked at my wife whenever all this stuff started happening. I was like, I think I'm okay with that. Like I'm glad that they're starting to see kind of what's going on and how it's affecting people, and that this isn't just baby stuff, right? Like, you know, you start to talk about the figures of like, hey, there are over 3 billion registered gamers on the planet, and those are just registered. Like, that's more people than you're going to reach with your church. And so, you know, it's a larger demographic. Maybe we have a real conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite is when I would speak on a Sunday morning. And like, oh wait, like you can do this. Like you can speak to to adults. And Bubba, did you ever get like, are you gonna be a pastor someday?
Yeah, when you
like a real and then like not a real pastor, but do you think like you're gonna be a senior a pastor? Like,
dude,
okay. I think
my favorite thing was when people would come up to me, ask me what my real job was. What's your real job?
Yeah.
Oh no, I was a full-time youth pastor, right? Like at that point. Or when I moved into tech, I'm a full-time tech director. And they're like, oh, you do that full-time? What do you do? I'm like,
never see my family. That's it.
What do you, exactly. I sleep in my office sometimes. Like, is that what you want to hear?
Yeah.
What do you think the senior pastor does full-time? Like, I do what he does with tinier people who care less about what I'm talking about. And so, like, you know, and sometimes I have to do his job, you know? And so it's just one of those things, like literally you get up on a Sunday morning and you preach. And that's the thing. It's like nobody hears you speak ever because you're always with the kids, right? You're with the youth. And then you get up and you bring a sermon and you're so freaking jacked up on, you know, spiritual Mountain Dew yourself that you give probably one of the best sermons you've ever given in your entire life. Yeah. And then the adults are like, oh, maybe you should be the senior pastor. And you're like, stop. Just like now we've gone from one extreme to the other. Yeah. And it's like, I just want you to know that this is the level of spiritual formation that your kids are getting in the youth groups so that maybe you see and understand, you know, kind of the importance of it. Parents though, man, like perception is reality. All that stuff.
With all of it. And so.
Yeah, McDoohoo, you're not a real pastor either.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, he gets it.
He knows. But yeah, man, it's crazy, but it's been cool to like slowly shift this culture, and even in our district and stuff, bringing some of these nerd things in, and I get it. Like when we go to camp and we do these things, we don't want to like. Some parents are like, I'm not sending them to put them in front of another screen, and what I'm trying to show is like this is an experience. Like when we do Super Smash Brothers tournaments, it's an experience. It's different. And the tabletop experience, like this is an experience. Like we're giving them ways to engage using the gifts and talents that God has given them, not trying to change them. Yep. The big term that we've been using in my home is like masking. Like we don't want to give kids ability to mask what God has given them. We want to give them the ability to use what God has given them. So whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical or whatever it looks like, like you can all be at this top place of what God has placed you to be or given you the gifts and talents to do. Our job is just to maximize that. Absolutely. So. Well, and that's the thing too, is like when, and I know you got to get off here in just a second, so we'll close with this, but like when you're
especially in youth ministry, Sean's like, hey, what are you guys talking about? A lot of things, actually. Mikesell's on the show today because he wanted to share a win that he had at a youth event. We'll just kind of generalize it like that. At a youth event where he allowed somebody to run allowed people to run D&D campaigns, and it brought the nerds into the fold and gave them something to do at that event that wasn't sportsy, right? Nothing against sports, but it's like we need to give space for those things to happen. And I think that is that's the thing that we'll kind of loop back around to full circle is I have so many stories of, especially growing up in West Texas where it's like Friday Night Lights and all that stuff, Permian Panthers, that kind of stuff. And so, but not everybody is into that. As big as it is, not everybody is into that. And so I would be requested to shut down my event because there was a large football game going on. And I love football. Like, I'm not even going to sit here and go, oh, the footing ball is, go sports team. Like, I love football. I really, truly enjoy it. But when you're asked to close down your whole ministry to go to the rodeo or to go to, the football game or the basketball or whatever it is, what you're doing is you're actually like leaving out an entire portion of people. What the smarter thing to do is to say, okay, hey, if that's important, let's get a volunteer to take people that do want to go to that thing. And instead of having a normal night where it's like, we're going to punish everybody for not being there. If you're able, stay back or have another volunteer stay back if you're the one going to the game with them and say, hey, we're going to have something for the nerds. We're going to have something for people who don't care about sports. We're going to have a Smash tournament or board game night or a combination or whatever, instead of just focusing everything in one area and then wondering why the kids are bored. Oh man, I can't believe it. This was the night I brought a friend and, they don't care about sports and they think that that's all church is. We have to understand at some point, I was thinking about this yesterday, actually. Every time you have a service, every time you have a meeting, a gathering, whatever you want to call it, that is potentially somebody's first time with you at your church, in your space, doing whatever. It may be your 9,000th time, but it's their first time. And so first impressions are everything. And you got to make sure that you're giving people, at least in some way, shape, or form, a good on-ramp and an entry point. Not everything is going to be geared towards the neurodivergent, right? Mm-hmm. But when you can, that's where they need to see that representation. Yep. So, well, hey, Mikesell, dude, thanks for hanging out, man, and for being
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. If you want to be on again, you just let me know.
Okay.
And we'll figure it out. Obviously, now we got it all. It's all on and popping. We know how to do it. So
yes, I will gladly give you youth ministry culture as often as you want it, because I know you miss it, Bubba. And you're about to have.
Yeah.
I mean, your oldest can't be too far away from this world.
Next year.
I was gonna say you're about to get back into it.
He's in 5th grade right now, and we're doing all that. They have a high five ministry, which is super dope. But it's like the pre-K for high school, youth group stuff. So
real quick. You know this, Bubba. My favorite is if you have 6th through 12th grade all together, and you're in it for a while in the same church, is having these 11 to 12th graders forget what they were like when they were 6th graders. and so I had that. They're like, Chris, these middle schoolers, they're the worst. I'm like, bro, you were that kid. And my favorite line, they're like, I was never that bad.
Oh, you were. Bro, that's speaking of football and stuff like that, while I'm watching the game, there's a commercial from Geico that is like real life instant replay. Yeah. And so that's it. You throw the challenge flag, you bring in the video.
Oh, I seen that. Yeah.
Your iPhone, that's like, hey, look, this kid who was, throwing bags of poop, this is you. They're like that was you doing that.
Like, let me call this 25-year-old that was with you when you were in youth ministry. Gosh. And let me ask them. Yeah. Because it's like, you were just as bad.
Yeah. Like
absolutely worse.
I don't know how to tell you that, like, you are the story that people tell us.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how to explain that. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Mikesell. Be good, brother.
All right. See ya.
Later. That's cool, man. I like that. I want to do more of that. I want to have people on. I have people on. So if you have something that you think would be, good to share here, send me a message. we'll talk about it. He sent me that message yesterday and was like, hey man, these are the things that I want to talk about. And I was like, yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And so